For years it's brought misery to those living next to it, and even now it's closed. A landfill site in East Yorkshire is still causing problems with foul smells. Residents claim not enough action has been taken against the owners, who have just missed a deadline to grass over the site near Gilberdyke. In a moment we'll find out what the Environment Agency is doing about it. But first, our environment correspondent Paul Murphy has this report.
Underneath this hill is a heap of rubbish, and although this tip in Gilberdyke has closed, complaints about it keep mounting.
Especially on a night, we can sit in our lounge some nights and you can smell it in the lounge. So it's still there, is the smell of the gas.
At points, this tip has reached double the legal limit in height. It's even sparked demonstrations. And it's also led to anger that more hasn't been done by the authorities.
It's complete frustration that this just drags on and drags on and drags on. These authorities have the wherewithal to force the situation. They choose not to.
In 1974, the site was granted planning permission for landfill. In December 2011, City Plant Limited took over the site. After that, 5 legal notices were issued to ensure compliance with the permit. And in January 2013, the site stopped receiving general waste.
They've got to get tougher. They've got to make the companies live up to their promises. If they don't do that, the people of Gilberdyke, Newport will go on suffering, and that's just not acceptable.
Come on then.
And no one is more familiar with the stink than Kevin Clifford. He lives in the shadow of the tip and claims the ongoing saga has caused his wife to suffer from severe stress.
I think the agency could have done a lot better. I think they've crossed their fingers at times and hoped that things would get better. They've listened to promises by the operator, which have never materialised, and I think we're well overdue for some much stiffer action.
We asked City Plant Limited, which runs the site, for a comment, but they haven't got back to us. Paul Murphy, BBC Look North.
And East Riding Council has told us today that it's trying to resolve the problems, but it's the Environment Agency who has responsibility for landfill sites. And Richard Clark from the Environment Agency is in the studio with us now. Mr. Clark, good evening to you. Why has this company which runs this tip been allowed to do what they like for 3 years?
They haven't been allowed to do what they like for 3 years. The landfill site stopped receiving waste about 18 months ago. And since then, we've been working with the operator to try and ensure the restoration of the site. That's not taken place in the timely manner that we'd have been expecting.
But David Davis has said it's 2 years since the Environment Agency promised to bring this to a conclusion. Do you accept that you've failed?
No, if there has been a failure, I would say the failure is of City Plant. It's their responsibility to manage this site and to restore the site. Our job as a regulator is to hold them to the conditions in their permit.
But the agency is responsible for not allowing smells, runoff water, contamination of land. All these three have been happening for 3 years.
Yes, and what we've done as of March of this year is we've issued a series of legal notices now that require the operator to take certain specific actions by certain specific dates. And if the operator complies with these notices, then by the end of this year the site will be restored and in a safe condition, both for the environment and for the local residents.
Has the Environment Agency not got enough teeth on this one then? Have you been lacklustre over it, do you think?
No, I don't think that's the case at all. We take these matters very seriously and we're a fairly tough regulator. Many other operators around the country will attest to that.
I don't think the people who live locally who are watching this tonight will see you as particularly tough. You say you'll force the owners to sort this by October. Given what you said 2 years ago, why should people who are watching, why should they believe you?
We've got to give the operator the opportunity to comply with these notices. If the operator doesn't comply with these notices, then we'll have to consider our next steps. And that's likely to, I guess, probably to involve prosecution. And then it may matter for the courts to decide what penalties to impose on the operator.
How's this going to end?
Ultimately, the site's going to be restored and it's going to be safe for the people of the neighbours and people of Gilberdyke.
Last question. If I drive past in November on the M62, will the smell still be there, yes or no?
That's a very difficult question to give a definitive answer to.
That's why I was asking it.
You need to ask that question.
But you say it's going to be sorted by October.
That is in the hands of City Plant, isn't it? If they comply with all the conditions in these notices, it will have gone by then. If they don't, it won't.
Mr. Clark, thank you very much indeed. I'd like to hear from you on this one. Have you been affected if you live near to it or drive past it on a daily basis on the M62? Are you reassured by what you've just heard there from Richard from the Environment Agency? Your thoughts on that one? If you want to be in touch, we'll have some before we finish at 7. Nice and quick, look north at bbc.co.uk.